Coming up on Arirang News. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's diplomatic super week begins as he arrives in Jakarta for a series of summits with ASEAN leaders before traveling to New Delhi for the G20 summit. Cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region and North Korea's escalating threat are likely to top the agenda. North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un is reportedly planning a trip to Russia as early as next week to meet with President Vladimir Putin for a potential arms deal. As part of the final regular session of the 21st National Assembly, a 4-day parliamentary Q&A session kicks off where lawmakers question government officials. Political issues take center stage on the first day, including the Fukushima wastewater release. Good evening, it's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. President Yoon Suk-yeol has arrived in Jakarta, where he'll attend an array of ASEAN-related summits for 4 days before he heads to New Delhi for the G20 summit. Bolstering cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region and addressing North Korea's provocations are likely to be on the agenda. First on his schedule is a dinner with Korean expats. Our presidential office correspondent Oh Soo-young starts us off.
President Yoon Suk-yeol embarks on a diplomatic super week, travelling to Indonesia and India to attend key multilateral summits and at least 14 bilateral meetings with other world leaders. Yoon's first stop is Jakarta, where some 27 heads of government and international organisations are convening for the 3-day meeting of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. After a dinner with Korean expats on Tuesday, the president will hold a bilateral dialogue with the 10-member bloc the following morning. He will build on the Korea-ASEAN Solidarity Initiative, which he presented last November in Cambodia, as a key part of South Korea's Indo-Pacific strategy that strives for freedom, peace and prosperity in the region.
President Yoon will attend the ASEAN-related summit in person for the 2nd straight year. Our intention to pursue the Korean-ASEAN Solidarity Initiative in earnest will be clear, as we announce plans to strengthen cooperation in cyber and maritime security and digital innovation in particular.
Yoon will also attend the ASEAN +3 meeting, joined by Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and Chinese Premier Li Qiang. As the rotating chair of the Northeast Asian trio, Yoon plans to address how to jointly fulfill the vision of the East Asian community through cooperation. Then, zooming on security issues on Thursday at the East Asia Summit, the president will ask world leaders for a strong response to North Korea's missile provocations and ongoing nuclear program by curbing its illegal financing schemes such as cryptocurrency stealing. Also, as part of his official visit to Indonesia, Yoon will hold a bilateral summit with his counterpart Joko Widodo at the presidential palace on Friday. A roundtable of major Korean and Indonesian corporate leaders will also take place during his time in Jakarta.
At this event, President Yoon plans to evaluate the achievements of economic cooperation with Indonesia so far and present cooperation plans for the next 50 years, including strengthening supply chains, responding to global agendas, and exchange of future generations.
With his itinerary extending to the G20 conference in New Delhi, Yoon will engage in further summitry on the sidelines of both multilateral meetings, with 14 bilaterals confirmed, including with India, and possibly 6 more, according to the top office. Marking the 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations with both Indonesia and India this year, a presidential official said Monday that Seoul sees great potential for synergy in aligning their national interests amid growing geopolitical and ideological tensions in the region. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
This year, South Korea marks 50 years of diplomatic ties with Indonesia and India, the hosts of the ASEAN and G20 summits. These two countries have emerged as significant economic partners for Seoul. Our business correspondent Shin Ha-young tells us what to expect.
Indonesia and India, where President Yoon Suk-yeol is traveling to for the ASEAN and G20 summits, have emerged as prominent markets amid the rapidly changing global economic landscape. According to the Korea International Trade Association, although the share of South Korea's exports to the two countries is not large, shipments to India rose by more than 20% year-on-year in 2022, while those to Indonesia recorded an increase of 18.6%. India, with a population of over 1.4 billion as of this year, is considered an attractive place for investment and as a production base. In particular, the Make in India initiative by the Indian government, which aims to make the country a manufacturing hub, has led global automotive companies to establish production facilities there. According to South Korea's trade investment promotion agency KOTRA, India is the world's fourth largest global manufacturing hub for vehicles. Both Hyundai Motor and Kia have successfully entered the Indian market through local investments. In 2021, in terms of sales volume in India's passenger car market, Hyundai ranked second with a share of 17%, while Kia came in fourth. Indonesia, on the other hand, is emerging as an economic partner in terms of supply chains and economic security, especially in the electric vehicle and battery sectors. The government and state-owned firms are working on building supply chains, starting with the mining of nickel, a key material for EV batteries, to the production and distribution of batteries. With India and Indonesia both marking their 50th anniversary of diplomatic ties with South Korea this year, economic cooperation is expected to expand in various areas. KOTRA sees EVs and renewable energy as promising areas of demand for both Seoul and New Delhi. The Indian content market, which is expected to reach $31 billion by next year, is also a field that South Korea can focus on. With Indonesia, electric vehicles, battery supply chains, as well as its smart city projects are areas that South Korea can look forward to for further cooperation. 신하영, Arirang News.
As Russia seeks more weaponry for its war in Ukraine, a U.S. media report says North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is planning to travel to Russia this month for weapons talks. Eyes are now on whether Kim and Putin will be able to meet for the first time in 4 years and what impact this will have on the region. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji has more.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un may travel to Russia as early as next week to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss the possibility of supplying Russia with more weaponry and other military cooperation. Citing American and allied officials, the New York Times reported Monday local time that Kim would likely travel from Pyongyang, probably by armored train, to Vladivostok, where he would meet with Putin. U.S. National Security Council spokesperson Adrian Watson also confirmed Monday that Kim is expected to visit Russia to discuss arms sale with Putin, and that the visit is widely anticipated to take place this month. She added that Kim expects leader-level diplomatic engagement with Russia, following Moscow's attempt to convince Pyongyang to sell artillery ammunition for its war in Ukraine. U.S. officials said in return, Kim would ask Russia to provide North Korea with advanced technology for satellites and nuclear-powered submarines. It would be the first foreign diplomatic activity for the North Korean leader in 4 years. Kim last met Putin in April 2019, then met China's Xi Jinping 2 months later, in June. Since January 2020, the North isolated itself for 3 years during the COVID-19 pandemic. One expert noted that this comes after the historic summit last month between the leaders of South Korea, the U.S., and Japan at Camp David, where the three countries agreed to strengthen security ties.
Overall, I think they will strengthen the three-way relationship between North Korea, China, and Russia. South Korea, the US, and Japan have already agreed to build a new trilateral security framework. So this is going to make the conflict between the liberalism bloc and totalitarianism bloc more obvious.
As for the reason why the U.S. government confirmed details of Kim's possible visit to Russia, he said it's probably to raise awareness, to call on the international community for stronger cooperation, in order to block illegal arms trade between Pyongyang and Moscow. The New York Times also said U.S. officials have, at other times since the war broke out in Ukraine, released declassified intelligence to try to dissuade North Korea, China, and other countries from supplying Russia with weapons. It also reported that officials say White House warnings about planned transfers of North Korean artillery shells stopped previous cooperation between North Korea and Russia. Bae Eun-ji, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, regarding the possibility of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un heading to Russia for talks with Putin, a Kremlin spokesman has said they have nothing to say about the reports. This is according to Russian state-owned news agency Sputnik. While attention is on Kim's potential trip to Russia, there are also signs that North Korea, Russia, and China may conduct combined military drills for the first time, likely against joint drills by South Korea, the US, and Japan. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung with more.
Growing speculation that North Korea, Russia, and China may conduct their first ever joint military exercises is bound to spark concern in the international community. On Monday, Russia's Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu revealed that Moscow is considering joint naval exercises with Pyongyang and Beijing. On the same day, South Korea's National Intelligence Service reportedly confirmed that Russia formally proposed a joint drill with China during Shoigu's visit to North Korea in late July.
There was an answer from the National Intelligence Service saying that Russian Defense Minister Shoigu likely proposed a three-way exercise between North Korea, China, and Russia when he met with Kim Jong-un.
Regarding the potential drills, Seoul's defense ministry said Tuesday that it will pay close attention.
Our military will keep a close eye on the matter, including movements related to the North Korean military.
Speaking to a Russian news agency last week, Moscow's ambassador to North Korea reportedly raised the need for trilateral joint drills between Pyongyang, Moscow, and Beijing. The ambassador said military drills would be an appropriate response in light of constant trilateral exercises by the U.S. and its allies. South Korea and the U.S. last week wrapped up their Ulchi Freedom Shield exercise, which is often strongly denounced by North Korea. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
The South Korean economy managed to expand, but by 0.6% last quarter from the previous 3 months, as imports fell greater than exports. Our Park Gun-woo has the details.
South Korea saw slight economic growth in the second quarter of 2023, despite an overall decrease in exports and imports. Preliminary data revealed by the Bank of Korea on Tuesday showed that real gross domestic product increased 0.6% in the second quarter compared to quarter one. That figure was identical to the bank's forecast in July. Despite export increases for chips and automobiles in the April to June period, total exports fell 0.9% on quarter, while imports were down 3.7%, mainly due to a decrease in shipments of oil and gas. Private consumption, government consumption, and investments all shrank in the second quarter, while investment in facilities, including investment in machinery, was the only category that saw growth. South Korea had seen positive on-quarter growth for 9 consecutive quarters, beginning in the third quarter of 2020. That is until the country slipped into negative growth in the last quarter of 2022. Growth was back in positive territory in quarter one of 2023, on the back of a small rise in private consumption.
The economic growth is projected to continue improving as consumption will rise, and sluggish exports will ease in the future as well.
The official also added that uncertain factors such as China's slower than expected recovery and concerns of the U.S.'s additional tightening policies still remain. And according to the central bank, South Korea's real gross national income fell 0.7% on quarter in the second quarter, which was mainly attributed to worsened terms of trade. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News.
The International Monetary Fund has assessed South Korea's latest measures to focus on budget tightening as the right set of policies. Harold Finger, the IMF's mission chief to Korea, made the remarks on Tuesday during a virtual meeting with Seoul's Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho. The government last week proposed a budget bill for next year. The budget is 2.8% higher than this year's budget, which is the smallest on-year increase since 2005. Finger forecasts South Korea's economic recovery to strengthen from the second half of this year on the back of a recovery in chip industry. During the meeting, Chu said that the government will continue to focus on stabilizing consumer prices amid harsh economic situations. Inflation in South Korea last month speeds up, rebounding back to over 3% in 3 months. This driven by extreme weather pushing up the cost of food items and high global oil prices. Our An Sung-jin explains.
Amid rising fruit prices due to extreme heat and rain, consumer prices in South Korea in August saw their biggest hike since April. According to Statistics Korea on Tuesday, the Consumer Price Index, a key gauge of inflation, saw a 3.4% increase in August compared to the previous year. That's the largest on-year increase since April. It is also a 1.1 percentage point increase on July's figure, making it the largest on-month increase since September 2000. The rise in food prices has been the biggest contributor to inflation. Fruit prices in particular were up by 13.1% on-year, which was the biggest rise since January 2022.
The Consumer Price Index, excluding volatile categories such as food and energy that include petroleum and agricultural products, which can rise due to temporary factors, saw the same on-year increase of 3.3%.
The same official added that the fact that core inflation measured by excluding volatile categories was at the same level as last month indicates that a change in consumer prices in August was due to temporary factors rather than a shift in the overall price trend. However, one expert noted that caution is needed.
Although it is a relief that the core inflation isn't expected to increase more, it's different from consumer prices as a rise in prices for agricultural and petroleum products is influential to consumers, like how the end of fuel tax cut can sway prices in a few months.
It seems that the government will have to balance tax revenues and consumer sentiment.
The overall slowdown in prices is being maintained, and as temporary factors ease, prices are expected to stabilize again from October onwards. The government will remain extremely alert to stabilize prices.
This aligns with government measures as it announced its efforts to ensure a lower price of key Chuseok food items for consumers while providing subsidies. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Grocery stores strategically located between rural farms and urban residents are proven to be quite palatable to both the farmers and their consumers. Our Yoon tells us how.
A variety of crops are grown in this greenhouse, like cucumbers and radishes. Until recently, farmers had to worry about where to sell their produce. But their difficulties have been relieved thanks to the launching of so-called local food stores close to the farm.
This is good because I supply customers with fresh produce and I get income.
There are locations that have opened on the outskirts of the city at the boundary between the urban and rural areas with some 100,000 people as potential customers. The stores see endless customers even during the holiday season.
The vegetables that I buy here stay fresh all week, and the best part is that the prices are affordable.
We were really in need of fresh and safe foods and affordable good quality produce. Our ambitious opening of the local food stores has been beneficial and meaningful as consumers found them to be convenient and close.
The city's agricultural cooperatives are working together to help raise the initial capital needed to open these local food stores. And with some 680 locations across the country, they also take on the role of bridging the gap between rural and urban areas by securing supply channels for farmers and bringing down prices for consumers. Ian-jin, Arirang News.
Korea's foreign reserves lost ground in August amid a stronger U.S. dollar. According to the Bank of Korea on this Tuesday, the nation's foreign reserves stood at $418.3 billion at the end of August, down $3.5 billion on month, falling for the first time in 3 months. Last month, the dollar index, a measure of the greenback's strength against major global currencies, gained 1.5%. As of the end of August, South Korea is the world's 8th largest holder of foreign reserves. China, meanwhile, ranks first with a total of $3.2 trillion. Oil traded near its highest levels this year, driven by tightened supply from the OPEC+. Bloomberg reported on Tuesday that global benchmark Brent crude futures for November held close to $89 a barrel, following a 5-day advance of more than 5%. U.S. crude counterpart West Texas Intermediate's October futures stood at nearly $86 a barrel. Oil prices have been on a 2-month rally led by supply reductions from OPEC Plus leaders Saudi Arabia and Russia. Riyadh is expected to extend voluntary oil cuts into October, while Moscow is likely to announce its new OPEC Plus supply cut deal in the coming days. As part of the final regular session of the 21st National Assembly, a 4-day parliamentary Q&A session kicks off where lawmakers grill government officials. Political issues take center stage on the first day. Our National Assembly correspondent Lee Si-hoo explains the details.
The hot topic of Tuesday's government question and answer session was the discharge of wastewater from the crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant. Representatives from the main opposition Democratic Party once again asked the government where it stands regarding the issue.
Japan began releasing nuclear wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear power plant, despite concerns raised by neighboring countries, among others. Is the South Korean government for or against the discharge?
I believe you are surely aware of the government's stance. We do not oppose the discharge if it's done in a way that meets the standards. This thought is the same as that of the past Moon Jae-in administration.
Representatives from the People Power Party decried the DP's stance on the matter, saying that the government and the party will protect South Korea from fake news and horror stories. The PPP also stressed the importance of pushing for one of the Yoon administration's goals, the launch of the Korea Aerospace Administration.
It's an important matter for the future of our country. The bill has to be passed in September in order to establish the administration within this year, so we can become the 7th space power.
On Wednesday, questions will focus on diplomacy and security. Other issues scheduled to be discussed this week are the economy and education. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
Seoul Fashion Week Spring-Summer 2024 opened on Tuesday at Dongdaemun Design Plaza. The upcycling fashion brand Ulkin held its opening show, and the global ambassador for Seoul Fashion Week, K-pop girl group New Jeans, also participated in the photo call event. Seoul Fashion Week opened earlier than usual, giving a glimpse of next season's trends before the Big Four fashion weeks in New York, Paris, Milan, and London. During the event, a total of 30 runway shows will take place until Saturday, including 21 featuring South Korea's top designer brands, 8 new brands, and 1 company brand, Metrocity. Moreover, visitors can enjoy various programs such as an AI photo shoot experience at DDP's Aullim Outdoor Square.
Most parts of the country will see daytime temperatures higher than average. Seoul will see highs of 31 degrees Celsius, which is about 4 degrees higher than the seasonal norms. While the unseasonably warm temperatures will continue for a while, lows will get breezier from this point on. And parts of the East Coast are still under the influence of a low-pressure system. For eastern Gangwon-do province, 5 to 10 millimeters are in the forecast. For Jeollado provinces, scattered outbreaks of rainfall of 5 to 40 millimeters are expected. Under clear skies, Seoul and Busan will be starting off at 23 degrees. Daytime highs will exceed the seasonal norms for most regions. Seoul will get up to 31 degrees, Gwangju 32, Gyeongju will be topping out at 28 degrees. And starting on Thursday, most regions will experience wide temperature gaps. For Seoul, sunny skies will prevail for the remainder of the week. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that is all for tonight's newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back with the most up-to-date news tomorrow. Good night.